On today's video, I'm going to show you how to turn this into this. The number one ingredient for paper mache is paper. You can use newspaper, or I prefer not to use shiny like ad paper, but anything that's kind of got a more matte finish. This is actually paper that's newspaper paper that was never printed on, that I got from a local newspaper office. So this is what I'm using, but you can use whatever you want. You can use regular newspaper because you're going to paint over it in the end anyway. Also, you're going to need the paste to stick the paper mache together. So what this is, it's a mixture of flour, water, and Elmer's glue, and salt. You don't want it too thick because you want to make it last, and you're going to put a lot of thin coats on your whatever paper mache shape you're making. So this is about the consistency, a little bit like a melted milkshake. That sounds good. Okay, let's get started. If you're gonna make a piñata, you're gonna need a basic shape to be kind of the framework for putting your paper mache over. So I choose this balloon because it's nice and big. So this is what we're gonna use. And then plus there's plenty of room inside. Once the paper mache is dry, there's plenty of room to put candy. All right, so all you do to start is have a good size workspace so that you can spread out. I would strongly suggest wearing an apron if you're messy like me. All right, so what we do is you take your strip of paper and you dip it into pasty solution so that it's all the way dunked down in, and then you use your fingers like this to kind of pinch off the excess. So what you have is kind of a strip that's soaked but not too bad. All right, so then we just lay it on here. Lay it on whatever form you're gonna take. I think I'm gonna back the video up a little bit so you can see better. Okay, so we're just gonna dunk, pinch with 2 fingers, and apply it to whatever shape you're gonna use. Dunk. And you can kind of crisscross if you want to give it a little extra added strength. Just smooth it down. It's kind of easier to use shorter strips, but you can use a little bit longer if you don't mind having a little longer strip to deal with. And for the first layer, I just kind of overlap them just a little bit. And that's all you do to get the first coat. You just cover up all the colored balloon part. Okay, so now we have our first layer of really wet paper mache on there. And don't worry about this little end sticking out. That will get covered eventually, but for now we want that to stick out because we're going to use this to hang our piñata while it dries. I also like to use a little bit of tissue paper. I wouldn't use tissue paper for the main strips, but when I'm between layers, it's nice to have a little bit of tissue paper to lay on here, and it gives it a little extra strength. But see how it comes apart right away? It kind of gives it a little extra strength, plus it soaks up the extra juice that you didn't wick off with your fingers. So just kind of go around and press it down kind of evenly. This is actually was left over from Christmas, so it's got tape on it. And if it's a little bit dry like this, you can either add a little more juice to it to stick it down or tear it off. Okay, there. It doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to put a lot more layers on. This is just layer number 1 out of 5 or 6. There you go. And now you have to let it dry, and it takes quite a while to dry. So I'll give you an example of one I started last night, and it has one layer. So I'm going to set this aside. Here is my paper mache balloon with just one layer of paper on it. And I put some more strips over top, so actually it's got 1.5. So I'm going to go ahead and put another coat on this. It's got the first really good solid coat on there. It's dry. Like it's actually pretty hard. I think if the balloon popped, it probably would still keep its shape versus the balloon freshly being coated. All right, so I'm just going to get busy doing this. You need 2 pieces of wire, approximately 2.5 feet long, to create a hanger for your piñata. Twist and crisscross the wire so that the loose ends come out at the top of where you want to hang the piñata. So here I am just drawing the face, so I kind of know about where I want to put the eyes, nose, and mouth. And you'll see that I'm actually going to be paper macheing over the wire. So these markings are just a guide. They're going to be covered up by a few more layers of tissue. So we're going to add paper and create bulk to this balloon-shaped head to make it look more realistic. Wherever you want something to stick out, you add a wad of tissue paper and just secure it with tape. It helps to get tape ready ahead of time. And wherever you want to stick out, chin, cheeks, forehead, nose, especially the nose. Clowns have big noses. Just tape the tissue down. So here you can see how I've added layer upon layer and finally have the face shaped the way I want it to be. I added some details like eyebrows and eyelids using tissue paper dipped in the paper mache juice. Here I'm going to show you how to put an ear on your piñata. This is kind of adding some more realistic touches to it at the end. So basically just take a little bit of tissue paper and To do an ear, I just took approximately 8 inches and kind of rolled it up, shaped it into kind of an oval shape. Remember, it doesn't have to be perfect, and you don't even need to add ears. Or you can make goofy, extra large size ears if you want. It's almost like working with clay when you have the wet tissue paper dipped in paste. So just mold it into the shape that you want until you get it the way you like it. So now the ear is approximately the way I want it to look, and in order to make sure it sticks to the head, I take a little bit of tissue paper and kind of use little strips to make sure it's secured on the side of the head of the clown head piñata. Kind of like Band-Aids. Think Band-Aids. There. Now the clown head piñata has an ear. Once everything is dry, I painted the whole head with white spray paint, and then I used red and black to make it look the same as the bozo picture right here. And finally, we need to cut into the top of the piñata to make a place to drop in the candy. So here you can see I'm just picking a spot on the back of the head. Kind of feels like I'm doing brain surgery at this point. So just really carefully using some kind of a sharp cutting implement. I chose to use an X-Acto knife. Cut open a section that's approximately 1.5 or 2 inches, big enough for you to easily fill it with candy. There we go. That wasn't too difficult. Be really careful using a sharp blade so you don't cut yourself. I decided my bozo piñata needed a little more color, so I chose a bright blue wired ribbon. So I'm going to fold it in half and then fold it back and forth to make it look kind of like a fan, and hot glue it to the bottom of the head so it looks like a collar. And just remember, it doesn't have to be perfect, because theoretically you're going to be letting kids bash the head with a stick, so it doesn't matter if it's perfect. You could probably use tissue paper or ribbon that doesn't have wire, so just, whatever you have laying around to add color to the piñata. There. Ta-da! Now I'm just going to take my hot glue gun and glue it down. And here's the final end result. I looked up Bozo the Clown and his basic makeup and just painted the face on accordingly. And I only used white paint as the base, red for the hair, the nose, the mouth, and then just accented with some black. And then at the very end, I thought he needed a little something, so I hot glued some of that ribbon at the bottom. So he's got a little collar. And at the top, we have our little area to put the candy, and ready to make your party extra fun. Bashing a clown's head with a stick and having candy fall out of it. All right, thanks a lot. Bye.